Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Thursday, February 20th, 2014. The first article for today is from Infowars.com. The War on Men, 10 Ways Masculinity is Under Attack. And Paul Joseph Watson has actually listed 10 ways that men are under attack: falling fertility, chemical warfare, degradation of positive masculine role models, metrosexual malaise, cultural Marxism, the men are paid more myth, the privilege trap, the legal system discriminates against men, masculinity as a dirty word, domestic abuse against men. And the conclusion that he stated is a totalitarian society can only survive if the male population has been gelded, emasculated, and disenfranchised. With this natural bulwark against tyranny removed, the elite can centralize power and pursue collectivist tyranny unopposed. This is why men and masculinity are under assault on every level, and why both men and women should join forces to fight back against this common enemy. So, be who God made you to be. Rise up and fill your place. God told Adam to populate and subdue the earth. And that is the role of men and, of course, women alongside men. And, it's not like you're supposed to subdue everybody else on the earth like the elite do. It's just rule over your place. And if we all rule over our places, then tyranny becomes a lot less relevant.
There's a book that I read a while ago called The Myth of Male Power, and it really speaks to some of the same kinds of things that Paul Watson is talking about in this article. And there is the common misconception that men in general oppress women, and sure, that happens some of the time, but the whole idea of women and children first, and the man dies to do what? To protect the women and the children. That is not done out of dominance. That's done out of a servant's heart and wanting to preserve the race. It's an instinctive value of the male principle to preserve the female, because that's who nurtures the children, which is the next generation. So it's a survival mechanism that the elites want to do away with so that they can dominate.
Well, to a large extent, political correctness wants us to deny our intuitions and our instincts. And I mean, and I'm not defending racism, but even tribalism, there is an instinct desire to be among members of our own family, among people with whom we share even physical characteristics. People tend to feel more secure when they're around other people who are similar to them. And I've read that many people seek, and this is all instinctive, you seek a mate who has a similar shaped nose, similar shaped ears, and we often, political correctness just presses us to deny some of these instinctive behaviors that really have historically preserved the human race.
Right. It really is, again, the elite seeking to get rid of those instinctive qualities in human beings that are there for our survival. It's all about their domination. And all I wanted to point out was that what's often considered male domination is actually male servitude for the benefit of the race. And again, the myth of male power, it really brings that out in detail. He actually proposes the question, how is it possible that a man could put, quote, women on a pedestal and then be accused of being dominating the women? And The answer is in that in those days, I'm thinking over a century ago, in that the woman was considered a property, and that, of course, is demeaning when we can think about in the terms of today, but the male was less than property. He was the guard of the property who was expected to give his life for the property. So that kind of, I think, helps put it in perspective. And again, it's all about survival of the human race.
And some of those things seem less relevant now because we're not constantly confronted with physical violence. But these things still are meant to come into play, and some sports like football and things like that are crafted by the elite to divert the tribalism and the instinctive protective behavior away from where it is still actually relevant today, which is protecting all of us from the dominance of the elite. And kind of relative to the idea of physical struggle is this video, Are the Olympics Like the Hunger Games? And this Olympic athlete has commented that the whole corporate aspect of the Olympics, actually it makes them feel similar in many respects to the Hunger Games, because it's these athletes, it's not just about traditionally what the Olympics have been considered, the struggle of humans to reach their top form and their top ability, but there's a diversion of the abilities of these people and their great accomplishments into they're melded with these corporate images, so that the corporations receive the credit as opposed to the athletes who have worked very hard and struggled very hard. And this is an issue that is the whole idea of athletes also being considered property. Particularly if you've read some of the books by the women who used to be MK Ultra Project Monarch slaves, and some of the comments that they wrote about athletes. Some athletes are under mind control, and others are persuaded to perform their best through being offered Project Monarch women as a kind of a reward. So there's a lot in the elite have a lot invested in sports and in as we've just said, diverting the tribalism into sports as opposed to where it is intended to be, which is protecting the human race. Here from Lou Rockwell is an article, Why Does Ukraine Seem So Much Like Syria? And there are a lot of great articles out about what's going on in Ukraine, and InfoWars has some as well. I'll just read the first paragraph. In Ukraine, U.S.-backed rebels seize weapons from a military depot and begin firing on police, killing at least 10. There have been $5 billion diverted into organizations in Ukraine to stir up this trouble. And this is just another attempt of the elite to actually probably to trigger World War III and just to bring more chaos and horror and death to the world. From Mario Murillo Ministries, NSA weighs retaining data for suits would lead to expansion of controversial phone program. And Mario has here, rule that evidence can't be destroyed would lead to expansion of controversial phone program. And this is a very insightful article and very significant information here. The government is considering enlarging the National Security Agency's controversial collection of Americans' phone records, an unintended consequence of lawsuits seeking to stop the surveillance program, according to officials. So just a real mare's nest. This whole thing is just a mess. And there were articles the other day that I don't think I included in any of the videos, that Congress is, because they've all been blackmailed, they are stalling taking any kind of action on getting rid of the NSA. So it's incumbent upon us to do whatever we can to protect ourselves and to make our lives as private as possible, at least for the time being. And this is on the website silverdoctors.com. The coming silver storm, the public is not prepared. And this is a comment from Karen Hudes, and she has included one of her videos in the comment. And this is one of the videos that Karen references. All of her comments in this thread are relevant and very interesting, and she's a great source for some of the information on what's going on in the financial world. Lyndon LaRouche was a guest on InfoWars yesterday, and it was a tremendous interview on many levels. It's probably worth listening to the entire segment that Lyndon participated in, even if you're not an InfoWars fan and don't typically watch. This portion is Ukraine and World War III, and Lyndon LaRouche has explained in his mind, in his way of thinking, what is going on with the Ukraine, and he's very insightful and has a lot of great information. One point that he communicated pretty strongly is that Great Britain is really the force behind all this, and that they have been empire building for many, many years, a few hundred years, and that this is a result of a part of their plan. And I just was thinking about, he was talking about the British royalty a little bit, and I was wondering why people tolerate the royalty in England. And he was saying that clearly they still are in control. They're not just figureheads. And I was just kind of thinking about the idea of why would people tolerate a monarch? Why would they give so much of their money and so much power to an individual? And historically, the role of monarchs was, as Don was talking about, how men are intended to protect women and families. The role of the monarch was historically to protect the community, the kingdom, the people, whatever. I mean, however large it was, whether it was a city-state or a nation. Typically, the king would actually ride out with the army and would be the figurehead. And looking at history, oftentimes the king would be the one that the opposing army would try to attack, because in order to demoralize and scatter and remove leadership, the opposing army would attack the king. That was just a battle strategy. So the role of king at that time, the role of monarch, actually carried with it a great weight of responsibility and risk. And the way things are now, that has been removed. I mean, you can understand to some extent if this person was pledged to protect you. You might still be a serf or, something on that level, but at least it's a symbiotic relationship. At least you are getting something in return. You're getting protection. What we have now, the structure of the elite, the cabal, we receive virtually nothing. All we receive from them is more death, more destruction, and more theft. Kill, steal, and destroy. They're not trying to protect us. They're not carrying nurturers. They are at the top of the pyramid. They are siphoning off all the resources for themselves at the top of the pyramid. and they do not care about the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And this is just in contemplating the British royalty and why they are still in power. And interestingly enough, this website is royal.gov.uk. This is their own representation of their own history. But clearly, in reading the history, the kings did protect the people and did go out to battle at great risk to themselves. And to some extent, you can see why they would be honored. But this has zero to do with any monarchy today, because the monarchies today are, as I said, at the top of the pyramid, siphoning off resources. This is a video, why is the Obama administration putting government monitors in newsrooms? Bombshell, Obama plans to put government monitors in newsrooms. This video, I just included the video because it's a video and it's only 4 minutes 20 seconds. This headline is out there, so this is definitely a real thing. He does have this plan, and they are pressing this, they are pushing to do this, which is completely contrary to the First Amendment and any protection of the press. I mean, why do they need to monitor newsrooms? And hey, if they start to monitor newsrooms, people are going to just have to go out to noisy bars somewhere where they can be anonymous and have their conversations where nobody can hear them. I mean, that we just have to find workarounds for all this stuff until we can eventually get rid of some of these guys who are imposing these kinds of things on us. As far as resisting what Obama is trying to do to the press and limiting free speech, First Amendment rights, this is a response from D'Souza, the filmmaker who was indicted. D'Souza, I will not be stopped by Barack Obama. Dinesh vows strong defense to charges of campaign donation violations. And I'm hoping that he will move ahead and make his next film, which is said to be a film about Hillary Clinton, an expose documentary on Hillary Clinton. We will certainly need that as we move closer to 2016. So I hope he's able to go ahead with that project. And I suspect that that is really the project that brought him under scrutiny, not the one he already did, but the one that he's planning on Hillary. And here is more Lyndon LaRouche, arrest Obama for his crimes. LaRouche stated that there are some people in Congress who are poised to do this. And they would certainly appreciate some support behind them. And LaRouche was asking people to call their Congress people and let them know that they would certainly like to see Obama impeached and even arrested. And Lyndon LaRouche is not the only one who is speaking out about this. This is an article from Newsmax, Napolitano, Impeachment, only way to stop Obama's executive actions. And Napolitano came out with this statement last week, but it just seems very relevant in light of what Lyndon LaRouche was saying. And I think there are more than 20, I think LaRouche said there are more than 20 reasons why Obama should be not only impeached, but arrested. So we certainly have this in the background, and the more we can do to bring it to the foreground, the better we will all be. And certainly if this happened, it would just really, be the beginning of the dawn of restoration of our constitutional republic. There'd still be work to do, but it would be a good beginning. And I have an Abby Martin video here, and the whole thing's interesting. Ukraine in flames, and more about how Americans use credit cards. But I'm including it, and it's the last article of the day, video of the day. It's about House of Cards, and just because I mentioned this the other day, not exactly good news, but in one sense it is good news, because people are becoming aware through this show of what's really going on. And Abby Martin called it the #1 show not on television because it is a Netflix production, and it's not on television. It's on Netflix. But everybody, people are really very, very deeply interested in the show. It has really caught fire. It's a great way for people to wake up and learn about what's going on in the U.S. government. And I mentioned that the other day. Is it true? How close to reality is it? And here's a quote from Kevin Spacey. Well, I've heard from lots of people, and some people feel 99% of the show is accurate, and the 1% that isn't is that you could never get an education bill passed that fast. So the corruption is accurate. The thing that's not accurate is that they portray government as even being more effective than it actually is. So it's the U.S. government is a little worse than it is portrayed to be on House of Cards. And one thing that I haven't done yet, but I've been thinking about, and I think it might be a good pastime for Liberty people who need something else to do online, to frequent some of the boards where people are talking about House of Cards. And if people don't understand how this show pertains to reality, maybe some liberty-minded truthers can help them become aware of that. With that little homework assignment, should you choose to accept it, thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty.